Prior to Saturday evening, we were advised from Department of Health and Medicaid it was not an oversight, it was intentional, and they have no intention of giving it back. So there's a lot of work ahead of us to try to get that done. We were also advised that the governor's Department of Budget office put out that his budget that has been put out falls $2.3 billion short. They have no money, no idea where they'll get the money, so the budget they've already put out is not funded. And so basically, don't expect to get anything legislative through them. That was what we've been told. That's all we're aware of at this point. More to follow.
Anything at State Council on any legislation?
There was discussion. They're still trying to go forward. They're trying to get some people to follow through with the community paramedicine. But there's still a major backlash from the nurses, NICE. And so that's causing some legislators to waver whether they're going to try to move forward with it. There's some that are still looking to move forward with it, but unfortunately they're Republican, and so they don't hold any form of help. We've been basically advised all of the stuff that we've been pushing for. The only reason we got it anywhere was because of the people who were championing it for us, and the people who are now chairs of those committees are not interested. Again, it's a young session, and there's a lot of educating that we're going to be trying to do.
Going on to membership, before Carol, I want to let you know that a bunch of your terms are going to be expiring April 1st. And so you're going to see an email come from me the next couple weeks asking your status and asking you to let us know whether you plan on staying in the position or not. Those that don't, we can then advertise and say we have openings in whatever county so that we can bring stuff back to the April meeting. But to give you an idea, Dave Sherman, Ken Gardner, Dave Allen, Walter Lehman, myself, Art Garno, James Chestnut. The Fort Drum position expires April 1st. Mark Dalton, Karen Blackburn, Kristen Johnson, Justin Astafan. And I know some of you just got appointed, but it's the way the terms fall.
You filled in somebody's term already.
So you'll see an email, so please respond if you're interested in keeping it. If you're not, so that then Carol, I can work with her, we can get the letter in the paper and let people know that we have openings. We currently have 2 openings in Lewis County. We had a representative from the hospital that was interested, but we didn't get a resume, so we've got to try to follow up on that.
Yeah, so Mark, or my Lewis County folks, can you try and, so Nick Hano was going to send me his resume, and he didn't, so if you happen to see him, if you...
I'll send him an email right now.
And then the other one, unfortunately, was this week.
I guess I'll reach out to Nick.
Okay, yeah, he said he was going to send it to me, and then
so if we can, when you see that, if you could let us know your intentions so that the membership committee can get stuff in the paper and then have time to get applications back so that we can vote on them, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else to add, Carol?
Just that we have one application that came in that we'll be looking at for, this was for Jefferson County.
We don't have openings.
Right.
Right now, we don't have the openings.
Yeah, I will, so what we'll do is, we'll see what happens with this round.
Right, that was Amanda Henry, right?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Amanda Henry,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Next is the nominating committee. I know Dottie's not here. We have the chair and the secretary that need to be voted on at the April meeting. Remember, we divided this up, so we do part of them 1 year, and so it's the odd year, so it's the chair and the secretary for a 2-year term. I did speak with Mark earlier, and I am willing to do 1 more term before I retire, but after that, I will be retiring and will not will not do that. But if somebody else has a burning desire to be chair, I will not be offended. Somebody would like to have that undertaking. So I'll make sure that Dottie and her nominating committee start looking at that. Mark, Peer.
Oh, awards. Probably the end of this week, this stuff will go out looking for award nominations for the regional awards. I do not remember off the top of my head what I put as, and we have to receive it by
March 15th, I believe.
something. Yes, probably about there. Need to be received by March 15th because the awards are done at Spring Fling. We did have two, I believe, that got state awards from ours last year. So it would be really, really awesome to see a bunch of applications or nominations for the awards, and something with good substance other than I came, I saw, I conquered.
So, you know, we need to, as a council, we do a really quick job of chastising people when they don't do well. We need to do a really good job of picking up those people that are doing a great job, and whether they get the award or not, they at least get the regional recognition. If they get invited to the banquet at Spring Fling, they get their award here, and then we send it on to the state. So, and you know, we kind of look at the nominations and help smooth them, help sharpen, whatever the word, make them stronger to send into the state. But so any help with that would be greatly appreciated in getting some nominations in. And program, agency, and REMAC.
All right, a lot of you already saw this, so I'm gonna try and whip through it much quicker than I did at the REMAC. New office, new website, so we're in the same building, just down the other end of the hall on the second floor. I started. I just didn't get there. Our new website, www.fdrhpo.org/EMS. So we represented the North Country at the RSTAC and RTAC meeting. A lot of stuff going on with stroke education, and the FastED stroke severity severity tool was selected, and we'll be putting together some education, and we'll be doing a study with Central New York and Mid-State region regarding strokes. In the back, if there's any left, there was also some hypothermia guidelines for burn patients that came out of the RTAC, because they're saying that 100% of their patients who arrive at upstate are hypothermic. Their burn patients that arrive there are hypothermic. So there's some guidelines back there. Town of Watertown Ambulance added an assistant medical director, and Lisbon bound Dr. Cartier. And he's actually running on the ambulance, so that's exciting. Lisbon Volunteer Fire Corporation changed their medical director from Dr. Lawrence to Dr. Howland. Brownville Joint Fire District, they were approved as a BLSFR, and we received we received endorsement from the REMAC for the BLSFR for Cape Vincent Fire Department upon receipt of their completed paperwork. That one I do believe we want a Remsco endorsement for. So I'll put that forth as a seconded motion from the REMAC as to endorse Cape Vincent Fire Department for BLSFR upon receipt of their completed paperwork.
Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
And a previous approved upgrade for J.S. Coster has passed the 90-day mark set forth, and the REMAC voted to extend that another 90 days. Those are just your public access defibrillation notices that we report routinely. Lisbon Fire District updated, they have a AED they keep in the station, so they just changed the MD on that as well. So regional BLS adjuncts, the following were all approved and or updated. So again, for everything, Lisbon Fire Corporation updated their Narcan, their albuterol, their blood glucometry, and their limited lab license, and their syringe epinephrine. It was a new application for Lisbon and Madrid, both for the BLS CPAP, and that's an error on the screen for the blood glucometry. Shouldn't be Madrid Fire Department, it's Madrid Rescue, actually. That was my error. So, Narcan for Town of Brownville, albuterol. So, those are all the BLS adjuncts that were approved tonight and or updated. I just kind of threw this up here as we move forward, getting everybody up on EPCRs. We used to have this all on one slide, but it's exciting to say that it's too much for one slide. The majority of our folks are on EMS charts here in the North Country, and then you have the other EPCR. So the real exciting thing, though, is on the next one, is that we only have 6 transport agencies that have no, I didn't even type that out right, that have not communicated with us regarding moving towards electronic PCRs. So we're getting there. One of these days we're going to be fully electronic. They have, 2 more years left? 1 year's just almost gone. April will be, the first year will be gone. They'll have 2 more years to get on to electronic PCRs, so we have some folks that are working on it. I believe there's a couple of ALSFRs too to catch in that mess. Anyhow, some PCR delinquencies, Redwood, Richville, Turin, and Russell. We are hoping to get those soon so we can get them all in the state, because they are getting the data punched into the system through the School of Public Health, I think it is, that does the contract, or
And
whoever.
I let Doug know from Turin, so.
Whoever holds the contract, thank you. The Coverdell Stroke Program, again, this is exciting. Once we have all these folks electronic, we're going to actually be able to do some proactive quality improvement instead of being reactive as we are all the time. All of those EMS charts agencies that I showed you in the previous slide, they have all moved to V3 in the regional bridge. So we're now getting all of that data, as well as all the image trend. I believe Governor is up next with AIM to come in.
19th is still low. 19th is still low.
So again, they're slowly pushing them on the backside to these regional bridges to make sure the schematron's right and all the data's moving correctly. They're doing the largest ones first. They're trying to get the larger ones done, and then they'll start working on all the other ones. So that's exciting. Once we get all the data into one place, we'll actually have some data to work off of. So if anybody is, or anybody knows an agency that might be interested in image trend, there's a couple training dates, Monday, February 11th and February 13th, one for admin, one for users if they'd like to get on and see the system a little more. Those are webinars that they can attend. Those will be going out this week to agencies. So again, there's a little bit of a reduced cost for that and or EMS charts that we can offer. So Hospital Hub, there's a letter back there on the table. If there's any copies left that went out to all the hospitals regarding this. There was a meeting in Syracuse, and I had the chance to speak with Samaritan Medical Center regarding this. But this will be very beneficial. And basically what it is now is, so for any hospitals that have used EMS charts, they know you can have access to go in and get all the charts that into EMS charts that agencies do and are transported to your facility. You'll be able to do this for any EPCR vendor into the Hospital Hub, and they will all be in the same format. So basically, once everybody goes over to NEMSIS V3, each hospital will be given access to the hospital hub if they sign on. And from an agency standpoint, my goal is that our agencies don't have to worry about faxing PCRs anymore, that the hospitals will be able to go in and get them. That's my ultimate goal. And then that way, the hospitals can go in and get their charts, and then if there's a missing chart, then we know, we know who lost it then. So that will hopefully solve an age-old problem. And it would probably be very helpful to medical records at the hospital as well. So CME skills sessions, there's the dates. We did have a huge reminder that providers must attend an approved skills session to complete their CME skills, because we don't credential evaluators anymore. It's the agencies, and we approve the person who's putting on the session based on what their credentials are. And if you're an agency that has been approved, you must have all the proper equipment. That was part of what you agreed to make sure to complete the session. Not just, pretending that you have an infant there to put an IV in. Suspensions. We had 7 letters that were sent certified. Three of those suspensions, this is their second time within the 3 years, so they'll have to pay a fee to come back online. We had 5 that were already suspended that just stayed suspended. 1 downgraded their level of care voluntarily, so they're not practicing at the ALS level. We had some no affiliations. We finally went in our system, and ones that are, what we do is when they're deployed or they're out on medical, we inactivate them so they don't show up in our stats as actively practicing. And, when they're ready to come back in, you just have to contact the program agency. We got some AMTs not affiliated with an advanced agency. We had 1 phone call, somebody who's not in the region any longer, and there's 5 of them that we identified that had moved out of the area. So, and then we sent out 4 no affiliation letters because they are now no longer with an ALS agency. So that was the beginning of our January. Training, I did some training, some BLS training at FDR HPO. We had 7 BLS providers come over and do Narcan, and then some in Waddington. We had to cancel the difficult airway course that we were going to do because we didn't get enough registrations. The leadership conference, and I'm going to throw our new member, Karen, under the bus here to talk about this a little bit. Karen is with the North Area Health Education Center.
Yes.
Did I do that right? NAHAC. She's in NAHAC. Go
sorry.
ahead. No?
So one of our AHECs in the Catskill region, I believe, has done this conference before. And ever since I took this position at NAHAC, I've been trying to work more closely with Ann to provide things for EMS. So we put our heads together and planned the event. We've got some really good speakers, got some really good sponsorships, and we've got a total of 61 registrants. Our goal was 50, and we're hoping to do this annually if there's a need for it. And it speaks to, the operational aspect of EMS agencies, bylaws, policies, not just the hands-on EMT training that you guys do so much of, which is just as important.
And they're doing most of the work. I love it. They're doing the certificates and the name badges and the brochures, so it's nice, and the registration. So it's been great. So, and Governor Rescue helped us a little bit too with that. So, and the planning stages. So, and of course Spring Fling, which I think's on later. That's the number of providers we have in the region right now credentialed in our system as of February 1st. So remember, we only had a few EMTs. So with our push to get all the EMTs, and again, there may be a few out there, but we've tried. I think the agencies have been pretty good, but so that's our data there. We got 441 EMTs here in the North Country. That was the one stat that we didn't have because we didn't have them in the system, but 15 AEMTs, that's definitely an increase, so thanks to Debbie's classes, because I think we only had one previously, and she's not affiliated with an advanced region or an advanced agency, so she wasn't practicing. 83 critical care techs, 95 paramedics, and one physician. So the STEMI grant is complete. We finished up the paperwork, and despite the multiple barriers, we showed a 30% decrease in time for STEMI patients to arrive at the receiving facility capable of definitive care. So, and again, they don't take them right up to the lab unless you can transmit that ECG to the definitive care facility that you're going to. So all agencies should have the capability to transmit them. We did have a handful of agencies that they got all the equipment, and I believe it's probably still sitting in boxes on their shelves. But again, ALS agencies should be working towards being able to transmit them. There's a lot of newer technology that will make that so much easier. But we'll continue to work on it, and we're going to try to do some studies as well. EM Resource is moving along. We're doing some training. We're going to try to get this up in all the hospitals. Each agency will have a login, and we'll get trained on it so you can put your own people in, and then any time that there's communication that's needed or change in hospital resource, that can be communicated to whoever you put in the system. I will tell you, after the state of emergency the other night, I sat there, and as I'm talking to Chris and Paul and those guys at 9 o'clock at night and saying, oh, now I got to call Lewis County, now I got to call this one, now I got to call that one. It would have been so nice to have some type of system like this where we would have been able to come, everybody would have been notified of some of the stuff going on. So this has huge potential, and I think it even has greater potential than we originally thought, because we're starting to get some interest from public health and I believe emergency management as well. So we really want to get it up and running so you can truly get a feel for this system. I would like it by March 1st, but I might be pushing it a little, but we'll see. We did a training. It was way too long, but we will also be scheduling another end users training, and then I have additional, our team, FDR HPO has a couple of additional trainings we have to do with the system yet, but again, it's fully customizable, and I think that we can maybe combine some things together and have one communication system. The state has received some money through the EMSC program, and they're doing the pediatric emergency care coordinator. And basically what they're asking for is each agency identify somebody who will be an advocate in looking out for pediatrics within their agency. And we would really like to bring some agencies on. There's a little more information in the back on the table and an application. If you're interested, please take it back to agencies that you're with. If they don't have to be an expert at pediatrics, but we're going to provide them with resources and information, and we just want them to be looking out to make sure that the agency has everything it needs for pediatrics, and just be on that front line advocating for pediatric patients. So we hope that agencies will jump on board. I think they're trying to get 60 new agencies is kind of their goal across the board, I believe. I don't remember the exact number, but so Any questions on that? Just some miscellaneous dates there. And I let Westchester know that we would be interested in their TXA study, and I haven't heard anything back. Outside of that, there was some questions on the minimum equipment list, and it was approved to remove the word ampule from behind EPI 1 in 1,000. That we would make PRN adapters optional, and we would require just 4 extension sets and move the size so we wouldn't indicate whether it was a small or a large bore extension. And they approved an updated quality improvement policy statement, which will be going out. And what did I forget? Did I get everything?
I think you did. Any questions for Ann on the program agency or the REMAC meeting? Larry, anything under safety?
Nothing specifically on the committee. I will mention that it's more of a fire thing than an EMS thing, but we are doing the firefighter safety education day in DePaulville next Sunday. Sign-in starts at 8 o'clock. In case anybody wants to get that, and that'll include the full 2-hour bloodborne pathogen as well in the morning, so if anybody has an interest in that. That's all we have for now.
Debbie wasn't able to be with us tonight, so Ann has her typed report that went out to everybody ahead of the meeting, but we're just going to hit a couple of the highlights and see if you have any questions.
Okay, so I didn't talk about it in my REMAC report, but we did talk about it there as well. So a lot of questions regarding the check and inject Kerflex syringes that were recalled. They're replacing them with 1cc syringes that do not have the A and P markings. This does not change the DOH policy or dosage for EMS. It just, the BLS providers need to be trained on drawing EPI 1 in 1,000 in a graduated 1cc syringe, or if the syringe is still good, you can still use the syringes. And it's up to the agency medical directors to ensure the providers are trained. We sent out a memo 12/19 of last year regarding that. At the state meetings, there was a lot of discussion about mutual aid concerns, and they made it very clear that the Remsco has the statutory authority and is responsible for reviewing and approving mutual aid plans. So that is something that we need to move forward and ensure that we're doing here as this group. And remember, all agencies must have a mutual aid plan with at least one other agency. And again, if they're signing on to the county mutual aid plan, that counts as well. So, but they have to have some type of mutual aid plan. January 9th, the regulations changed to allow a 17-year-old to become an EMT if they turn 17 by the last day of the month in which they test, so that's a huge change. Get the date of the next meeting. EMS week in May, a statewide initiative, May 19th. They're going to be sending out more information, but, excuse me, did I say May 19th or 18th? It should be May 19th. They would like all agencies to take 4 hours from noon to 4 and go out and educate their community on EMS, so you may want to mark that date on your calendars a little bit, and they're supposed to be sending out some more information for agencies as well. The new BLS and collaborative protocols have passed. The one thing they did with the collaborative protocols is try to ensure that the BLS portion of them matched the new BLS protocols, so that there wasn't confusion as there has been in the past. And the new BLS protocols are going to look like the collaboratives the ALS providers are used to, but it may take a little bit for our BLS providers to get used to those because they're not used to that format. They have tentatively talked about a potential August 1st rollout for the BLS protocols, but they're in the process of developing the education. And at the same time, the collaborative group has some education developed to, so we'll be doing the protocol update here pretty soon. We did have some discussions with the collaborative group as far as the process, because they kept tweaking little tiny things here and there, and we're like, we can't do that. That there really has to be a process to this so that we then have the opportunity to push out those changes for comment periods. So moving into next year, hopefully we'll have more of a process in place for that. There's a lot of course sponsor stuff that they talked about, but that information is in the meeting minutes. So the ambulance transfusion services, they're still trying to get the forms done. All the stuff we templated, Mark had helped a lot with that, we sent it to them for approval to send out to the agencies, and they told us not to use it. They're changing the whole process. We've had two different reports state that they've reached out to Wadsworth for forms from agencies, and they've had no response. So they did say that there was an emergency provision that a patient could be transported with a non-ATS service if one was not available, but the blood bank would be responsible, and of course the nurse has to go. A blood bank would be responsible for reporting that, and that was not to be used routine and regularly. And but they really need to get their process down so the services can become ATS. We're kind of at a standstill. Do what's right for your patient.
Next meeting's in May, right?
Yeah. Oh, I had it up on my slide.
Any questions on the state council meeting? Training and ed. Again, Debbie's not here, but this would have been her last meeting, as she is resigning from the council since she's retired from the county. She just does not feel she's in the loop, and this seems to be changing rather quickly. So we'll be looking at the training and ed committee, getting some more people on it. We have a application for a course sponsor. This is how big it is, and it's printed front and back. That needs to be reviewed, and we need to get that. It's for Lewis County Search and Rescue, so training and ed will be working on that to go through that and make sure everything's good. Along with the training and ed, some of you are aware of the CC to paramedic bridge. That paperwork came out, the application came out. They had to be in by, I believe, January 30th.
I think it was February 1st.
February 1st. Jefferson County, Paul was able to become a sponsor so that we'll be able to do the FISDAP tests in their office, and he'll be doing the skills for us as well. So that's going to be very helpful for us here in the region. So go on to county reports. Jefferson and Paul, Chris, I don't know who's reporting, so I just left it the way it was last month. So no, just pointing at each other.
I don't think they do either.
We can talk about this. Go for it. Well, last month we reported our classes that we come.
That was October's.
Last month. We have 3 classes going on. We've got a original refresher going on at Tears. There's one in this building that's ongoing. There's one that started in November over in Lewis County. November started in this county. One in Carthage is almost done. That's out this month in a couple of weeks.
It's out in 16.
And then there's the advanced one that being done down in South Jeff.
And the first responder.
We're starting to hopefully we'll be starting the first responder course with the approval of course application today. We're also hopefully by the end of the week submitting for a CLI course in March. And we do the education update at Friday of spring fling, so the all day only for class. And that application approval will, and once those are approved, we'll take those out to everybody.
Yeah, that'll be in the brochure for the instructor update, because the state for instructors, you now, see if I can get this right, it's 3 hours of official state staff there, certified instructor update, and then 5 hours of additional instructor type information that's approved by the state.
Well, or the training center approves it. It can be any sort of instructor continuing ed. As an example, if you're at a college and they offer a teaching day,
Yes, and that's-
that would count as an example. But just if I may, the plan is, because Paul and I just talked about this, we're going to do the state, in other words, there'll be 3 hours of the state update, which is the key one anybody who's looking to recert in the next 3 years really needs to get. And so my strong recommendation is for people to come out and do that. And we may want to just, Paul and Paul, put in two, one for the morning and one for the afternoon, so you've got 2 different course numbers, but we can talk about that.
So for those of you that don't know, Judy Brennan retired. She retired in January,
Yeah, Judy's last day,
so.
going forward. Lot of big learning curve in the office. We transferred the course sponsorship to Paul as the administrator, and Paul is what's it on contact?
Liaison.
Liaison.
It's work.
Yep.
We've got the American Heart Association been transferred, so we now have access to that for the BLS portion of American Heart and the cars and stuff. We put on a lot of new instructors in the last couple of weeks. We've got about 8 or so, Paul, eight new instructors. And the dispatch is looking for a couple of more instructors, so that seems to be going very well. I know the seats are many things driven out of that building. I have no idea how often they left that, but but I forget. They said one.
Big learning curve. We're very receptive for opinions.
And they look good
Suggestions.
for me at 9 o'clock at night.
As long as they're not in anger. We are definitely learning as we go, and we are trying to bring the office up. Chris has done just an amazing amount of stuff out there right now. One of the things that we are anticipating is when we do our update apps with the American Heart, we are going to go to the ALS, so we'll be able to start offering the ACLS and PALS. So.
And one other thing, we're going to try to do something a little bit different with the EMS agencies. A few years ago, they got combined with the fire and EMS. EMS has kind of lost its identity, especially in our county. And a lot of people have commented on that. We recognize that, so we are going to make an attempt, hopefully in the next couple of months, to have a more open, inclusive EMS, meaning just for EMS, to try to move some agenda forward. There's a lot of things coming down from the state, a lot of things happening that I don't think enough people are aware of, and we certainly can't do it by ourselves. I don't want to do it by ourselves. We certainly need everybody that's a provider's input, and I think we'll get things going on. I've got on the agenda there the mutual aid plan to be updated, some of the other stuff to look at. So that's looking for the entire community of our county to come together and work on these projects together and kind of move the ball down the field, rather than have it pushed out from an office that nobody's had a say in. So try to make some changes in that first. Stop in the middle. And coffee.
And he has a place for you to sit now.
I used to sit down. No more boxes.
No.
And I think that the contact information for Jefferson County needs to get updated with Judy Gone on the website.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did talk to Ginger, the website, we don't have access yet.
And he's talking about-
I think he's talking about
Oh,
ours.
I'm sorry, I thought the Jefferson County, I'm sorry. No, not that. Oh, because our website isn't going to update either, that's.
No, well, we'll get ours fixed. We can do, Jonathan can do that.
Jonathan? The office number, not my house number.
Any questions for Jefferson County?
Thank you for that, we didn't even think about that.
So Chris and Paul, you guys will be attending more of the Porto meetings with Rich
Yes.
for planning?
Thursday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to see more cooperation and participation if it's possible. I know staffing is a major problem.
So, I mean, Chris is full-time and Paul is part-time right now. So when you think about it, there was 3 full-time and we've gone to a person and a half. So hopefully we can.
You're the half, Paul.
St. Lawrence County.
I'll start and then I'll see what Mark has from the EMS Council, but basically the biggest thing for St. Lawrence is our emergency manager, Mike Latire, is leaving. His last day will be February 15th. He is going to be going back to Canton Potsdam Hospital. I may have the exact title wrong, but he's basically emergency manager over at the hospital. I think there's a few more words after it, but I don't know what all the exact title is, but he'll be in charge of safety and emergency planning and things like that for the CPH. So starting tonight, it probably already happened, they'll be doing a search committee for the county and publicizing the position. So if anybody knows of anybody who would possibly be qualified and interested, take a look at the St. Lawrence County website under employment, I believe is the account they need to look at. Or direct somebody to. Within dispatch, we were fully staffed for 2.5 months, and now we're losing a full-timer and a part-time in the next 3 weeks. One's moving on to a different county job, and the other one is working full-time elsewhere and doesn't enjoy working 60, 70 hours a week total and wants a little personal time. Oh, I know. Daughter's out to college and things like that. Should have lots of time to dedicate to us. Other than that, we're still sort of same as last month. We still have problems at times getting people out the door.
Don't you have a new EMS? Don't you have a new deputy?
Yes, and he'll be taking my position here, is John Mitchell or Jonathan Mitchell. He's been working with Potsdam Rescue for a couple of years. He's been involved down, I believe, Rensselaer County, doing things down there. He went to Potsdam State, decided to stay in the area. He's very knowledgeable on the EMS, and he is going to be the county's EMS coordinator that has been lacking for 6 years now. And, well, it hasn't been officially lacking. Mike Latire was, but he was not EMS, and he definitely got enough to do with just the political side and grants and things like that he really did not have time to dedicate to it.
Mark, something more to add?
We have all the same wonderful problems that every other county represented here, only probably worse. We are actively working on revamping some dispatch policies, developing a mutual aid plan, updating the MCI plan from 1970, and slowly working on solving massive manpower shortages and 90-plus minutes to get ambulances to people. So, it's rural New York.
Any questions for St. Lawrence? Who could give us a Lewis County report in Bob's absence?
I guess I can. I didn't realize that Bob was not here. Both Matt and I are deputy EMS coordinators. I'm really not too, I really can't think of anything too earth-shattering to report. The EMT original refresher is on target, still has good attendance, and that's scheduled to test in May. Other than that, unless Matt has something, I really don't.
The last council meeting, advisory committee meeting, I'm sorry, we did kind of stumble across a few things going on at Snow Ridge, bigger events, and not quite the reaching of mass gathering, but they're planning on bringing back Mow Down again this year. As you can imagine, yes, the sigh of, oh my God, again. But other than that, I mean, just kind of normal stuff. We're just trying to figure out how they're gonna at least get them to courtesy notify us when they're having these mass, events like snowmobile races with thousands of people, and give us the courtesy heads up, because again, manpower shortage is a serious thing for us in the southern end of the county, so just being able to cover stuff like that. But, and the CON thing from last meeting is what we just dealt with. So.
Any questions for Louis? John, state report.
Okay, couple of things. We have a new Part 18 that is going to be up in Waddington on top of the normal Bass Pro Bass Masters thing. Details to follow. I've been talking to the promoter about it. It's going to be a rock concert type thing. Details yet to follow, and exact dates and times seem to be fluctuating a little bit.
Waddington or Ogdensburg?
What? Ogdensburg, my apologies.
Ogdensburg,
My
okay.
apologies. I said Waddington. I was, mind flipped there. My apologies.
Mine was going.
No. Sorry about that. Yeah. The lab instructor course, 2022, 23, 24, is huge. I really tip my hat to Paul wanting to get this done. I think this is important. It is needed here because that's how we build depth. That's how we build the next generation, and I think it's super, super important. Couple other things I want to mention. On the 19th, there will be the Department of Health putting out specific handouts and so forth, with the idea of every service who's an ambulance service go out and do some meet and greets in your community. Even if it's a bunch of people playing softball or somebody in the community, stop in for a little while, say hi, shake some hands, and try to promote what we do. Get out and do a little visibility. I think that's part of our thing we're trying to push in terms of working through that. Been doing and involved with a couple of CON actions. Both have a number of things related to that here, which will be probably coming to the regional council in the next couple of months. Things work out accordingly. The other thing I guess I got to say is this. Folks, please try to have your PCRs completed within a reasonable time of getting back from finishing a call. Now, if somebody's out and they've done 3 calls back to back, and you got a chart and they're all nasty ALS, the department understands that you're not going to get them done in an hour. Okay, there's probably a couple hours of typing there, and we get that. Okay, but unfortunately, it does mean that when somebody gets back at 4 o'clock in the morning, you don't go to bed. You sit and you got to finish the chart. Okay, and there are now ways we can look at when you start that and track that, and literally things are there. And failure to do charts in a timely manner has negative adverse potential effects to the patient. Okay, I know we talk about this, but let's not lose sight of the patient. That's why we chart. Okay, and it's super important that that gets done in a timely manner. Okay, and really operationally, services should be looking at this daily, or at least over a weekend, Monday morning. You know what I'm trying to say? It shouldn't go days and weeks sometimes, and there are some horror stories out there. I can't stress that enough, and we unfortunately are dealing with those issues around the region, around the state, and I get we're busy, the other thing is this. I get it, everybody is working 2 and 3 EMS jobs to make a living. I get that, okay? But you can't leave the service where you did the call, log in on another system, okay, to finish the call from where you were to get to the other place. That sends up all sorts of red flags. So again, gotta finish the call before you leave the place you did the call at, okay? Pretty common sense, but there's a lot of creativity, and now with, again, computerized records. Oh, I didn't do that. Well, let's see, IP addresses and so forth. Yes, you did, okay? And it's really pretty cut and dry, and the department has been looking at that. So pretty pleased with Sugar on Top. Complete your charts in a timely manner. Thank you.
Any questions for John? Ryan's making a lot of headway, trying to get things electronic and everything, so that is greatly appreciated, not having to handwrite out forms to renew stuff, so.
Yeah, no, we're moving, we're quickly, the two big things there, and I'll be very brief. One is we're going to no longer give triplicate paper out doing field inspections. We're going to be doing on tablets, and then we're going to email, which brings me to one other point. It's important that each service have a general service email address that can be looked at by whoever's the new leadership of the place. Okay? Because so many times what happens is it's so-and-so, it's their email because they're president. They step down and they either change their email or don't continue, and then, because the forms and things now are going to get emailed to whatever address is in our database. So that's super important, and it should be a generic email for the agency that, a shared account, whatever, looked at by president, vice president, or however you want to organizational structure that. And I might point out to you, this is not a new thing because we did this during SARS, okay? And we did this all with Ebola. We've done this with other things, okay, where we said to folks, the way we're going to put out alerts are to those email addresses, okay? And it was good for a while, and it's kind of waned, okay? So that's important. Second thing is, they are working diligently in Albany. I'd love to tell you it's going to be in this budget year, but Ryan is pushing hard, and I'm hoping he gets it happen, that we will be going to more of a paperless system for recertifications, okay, and initial certifications. In other words, you're going to be pull the form down online, electronically sign it, and then be able to submit it. Then you will be able to see exactly where it is in the process for both narcotics and biannual research and so forth. Same thing with an affirmation, electronic signatures. To that end, I will also mention Part 18 applications that are now coming up do not have the notary stamp on them anymore, and they can be submitted electronically, and we will accept the electronic signatures. Okay, so that's the other news item. If you've got the old forms and are using them for this year, I'm not going to reject one because they didn't get out till late, you know what I'm trying to say. But for subsequent years, we're probably this time next year, we're going to start saying, sorry, got to get it on the new forms. But for this year, we'll probably, transition through. Thank you. Sorry about that. That was too add-on. Sorry.
And that's one of the other things that just made me think of something that they're looking at the state levels. They're looking at the Part 800 minimum equipment list,
Yes.
and the Part 18 minimum equipment list. So
Yep.
they're looking at the committees on those to update those.
Yes, and we're taking a very hard look at things like the 54-inch padded board splint, okay?
All the things we move when we change our oxygen and that.
Yeah, I haven't seen one done. I saw one used maybe 40 years ago, and that was the last time first and only time I've ever seen it used. Other things like there is the requirement for the oral screw in the Part 18 that we want to get rid of because that's an obvious device you want to get rid of. But we are trying to look at more modernization, more, some places that common sense in that. We also are reviewing some of the policy and procedure stuff to look more in line with that. But there's committees working on it. State Council are actively looking, and we just as staff put in a pretty massive document of things we wanted to get rid of that just didn't make sense anymore and go from there. So hopefully details to follow. But I also need to caution people. It takes a reg change to do this. And it's not quick. 18 months to 2 years is not uncommon for a reg change. I just need to say that. So it's not going to happen tomorrow, but there is active work to do it.
Back to the PECC, the pediatric, and we talked to adding a lot of stuff to pediatric, it's completely missing the language.
Yeah, they're going to basically take the national recommendation list and incorporate that into 800. Yeah, we're going more and more with what I'll say is national standards in terms of looking at that. There's some internal discussions about O2 tank securage. I won't get into it here, but I think it's fair to say that there are two schools of thought. Tanks in their raw form that are stored on the ambulance cots, it's not a best practice to be having it there because if they loosen up and fly, they become a missile. Okay, so the requirement is if it's in its raw form, it has to be mechanically fastened or secured to the vehicle. If it's in a padded bag, it's per the current policy, it is acceptable to be on the cot. We're looking at potentially modifying some of that and looking at that and details to follow. I'm on a work group that's looking at that, and there's a number of other ones we're looking at and redoing as well. Steve DeZura, as our new deputy director, is going to be doing a lot of policy statement work and rewriting our internal SOPs and so forth. Which again, he's just brand new on the job, he's coming, but he's a great addition to the staff.
Old business, Mid-State Region Distance Learning Paramedic Program. Tracy Leonard, Fort Drum Regional Health Planning, really took the lead on having our meetings. We had our last one 2 weeks ago. And as was anticipated, JCC is going to give up their accreditation to be a paramedic program. And we're led to believe that Mid-State talked with Guilfoyle and is going to be having the distance learning classes here. It's only about 40% of them that can be done. The rest they will have to travel down to Mid-State to complete. We thank Linda Dietrich for all her years of dedicated service to making the program work in our region and all the hard work she did. She really was the guiding force behind that. They are aware that there are some equipment that was purchased by the region for the program, and we're working on getting that list so that we can get that reallocated to other core sponsors so that equipment will be available for the departments to use. So I believe the February 15th, Paul, is that when the accreditation, February 15th?
Yeah, 11.
So the letter was supposed to be going out last week to accreditation, letting them know they were not able to be doing that. So.
If I could, Paul has literally been the founding father of that program for supported it in a lot of years. And I'd like to just publicly thank him for the service on that one. He and a couple other people back in the day, okay, Debbie and a few others who went down under Dick Cherry's leadership and got their paramedic and then came back up here. And in the early days, he was there. And I'd just like to say, thanks, Paul. He was a behind-the-scenes player that really did a lot of good with this program. It's sad to see it go, but I get the financial realities. I just like to publicly say thank you.
You don't know that.
Two classes that James is helping out with. Is that the bridge course you're talking about?
No, this is the distance learning paramedic through Mid-State.
If I could quickly, if you remember down in Fulton, they've had a off-site cattle thing. What we're suggesting is to bring the same program here into Jefferson County so that people will drive. It's only about 40%-ish. There are some, as an example, I think this year they're going to, for this next thing, they're also going to allow them to take their exams remotely. Where currently all exams, you have to go back there, and I think, but it's still, it's worked out very, very well in the first year of Fulton. They started out with 14, they graduated 13, and something like half of them was, of the Fulton group, were in the upper 10% of the class. So it's gone well, it's currently running, people are happy with it, moves forward. And I think this is, for right now, the best option we can put together for the community up here as a whole. And look, and certainly if it works here, and maybe another year we can look at Canton, or we can look.
What we talked about is maybe every third year Jefferson County, second year in St. Lawrence, and the third year in Lewis or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Set up on a rotational thing and giving people notice so that they would know that type of deal. And but JCC has offered any assistance to Herkimer that they need, and
it's through Herkimer.
Through Herkimer, yeah, it's through Herkimer. Yeah, it's, well, if I may, it's based at Herkimer County Community College. The technical sponsor of it is FACTS and St. Luke's EMS. I just need to.
I saw the confused look on your face.
Sorry. You're familiar with that program, making the trip, I believe, once or twice in your life, man?
Yeah, I did my.
I know that. That's why I'm teasing you with John Barrett. That's why I'm teasing you. I understand that. I'm just teasing. Yes. yes. But again, I think it's great. I think this is a good, who knows, maybe in a few years, we can figure out a better mousetrap for long-term, having a program back up here. But for right now, this is the best we can, again, it's got a good proven track record. I think it's something that, again, Deb and folks here have worked Deb and associate other folks have worked real well. But again, I'd be amiss if I didn't say that Paul was one of the founding fathers of this. Thank you.
2019 spring fling.
It's flinging.
Ann and Mark and I had a conference call last week and worked on the speakers and trying to get all that finalized so we can get that out. As in the past, assistance will be requested to help man our booth and to help scan people in and out and all that good stuff. But and finding that registration, online registration and all that, it makes life so much easier that we definitely will never get rid of that and go back to the old manual system that we were doing. So, Fort Drum dust off. Rich,
Well, I think that was, we
the,
had some conversations, and don't know if you guys are not actively flying right now, correct?
We are actively flying for search and rescue missions.
For search and rescue,
Yep.
yes.
We're not in the clearinghouse with Mercy or LifeNet right now for point of injury medevac missions right now. We're doing our arms inspection March 2nd through the 4th, which is our big thing. It's basically our accreditation for the Army. So that's put everything else on a back burner right now. So I don't anticipate any movement on getting back with the clearinghouse or anything like that in the near future. And we'll be sure to keep the clearinghouses in the region up to date when anything changes. I hope it will, but we'll see. As part of the Flight Paramedic Sustainment Program that we have put together, I have 13 paramedics who will be getting New York State licensure as soon as they extract a $650 check for the federal government, which has been more of a pain than I could have possibly imagined, but regardless. And I will be seeking help from the Remsco and whatnot, because I think some of these people are going to need exams. Most of them are going to qualify because they had their military training recently enough. They should be exempted from it, and they should be able to get direct reciprocity from their military training. But there are going to be some that I'll need some help to make sure that we finish off their examinations and stuff to
Paul's your guy.
to get them finished off. So hopefully that'll work out well. And that's just a requirement for the paramedic sustainment program, because we're working with some of the local EMS agencies, and one of the contingencies was that they had to have New York State licensure to do it. As a side benefit to that, we're probably going to have 13 more ALS providers that are going to be hanging out that might have some availability for some of the local agencies and stuff too on their downtime.
Can you send them to St. Lawrence?
Yeah, they want to travel.
Right, yeah, so, but if there are agencies that are interested, these guys, depending on what the command allows, they're not generally allowed to be paid because the Army is stupid. But they can do volunteer work, so if there's agencies that are interested, when and if we finally get everybody licensed and stuff, I would be happy to get people in touch with people and try to find things that are convenient for the paramedics that are going to be.
Sure, guys. You've already started receiving them in the river.
Yep.
They're there to help and work, and they don't need that.
Yep. We have, I believe, 6 in the unit that are licensed right now, so that have started out with Indian River and LSAR too, I think. And things are going pretty well so far, but we literally just started. So hopefully we'll be able to, again, kind of work together with Fort Drum and the local community to try to, work together, make sure that our paramedics are getting the experience they need, and also help out the EMS environment in the North Country. So
Nice.
I can't give you helicopters, but I might be able to give you people. So.
No, it's a win-win for everybody.
We're trying.
It's a win-win for everybody. It really, really is, because the little skills they get on the ground can pay off big time in the air. So.
Yep. just as
I
a,
will add them up under committees for next time too.
sure. I don't know, I don't know, again, I can't say anything for sure about what's going to happen or not. I do know that we are slated for a deployment in the fall, but I don't know how that's going to impact anything at this point. So again, just something that we'll keep in the back of our minds, and I'll try to get updates as we get dates and decide who's going where with what and what's being left behind. So we'll see.
Rich, do you have anything that you'd like to add? We will add up under, we're going to add this under a committee report so that we're on the agenda for every meeting for somebody to give us updated information.
This is my first meeting, and I'm not really sure how much my predecessor kind of participated in this, so I'm just kind of here to be a sponge for
Well, who was your predecessor?
Terry Byard. Was he here at all?
No, we didn't. This is a new position.
Okay.
So
And
you're
we appreciate
leading the
Karen
way.
and Dr. Cartier and you attending.
Yeah, it's just,
an important part of our region, so.
it's probably very confusing to everybody, but like Karen worked for the medical activity, and I worked for the garrison, and the doctor would work for the division, so
Yeah.
3 separate military things kind of blended into one place. But they wanted me to come to be like a point of continuity from now on, so that it would be, at least me coming every single time instead of a new face, so.
Any other old business?
I have kind of one, if I may, new just piece for a second.
We haven't done.
Okay, go ahead. On my report, I would have added it.
Oh, go
Okay,
ahead.
all right. Just to make everybody aware, the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th of August is the week before State Fair. It is also where the 2 Woodstocks are going to happen. One is going to be down at the original site in Sullivan County at Bethel, New York. The other is going to be at Watkins Glen Speedway. Some of you may or may not heard the state police have put out a thing basically saying that they are very concerned about having enough law enforcement presence to manage all this. There's similarly maybe some personnel drains and so forth from that in the end of August with weather and everything else is into vacation time and people, looking to go. So I just put that on your radar. These are going to be probably major mass gatherings, okay, that are going to eat up a number of resources, like state troopers they may be pulling from the North Country extensively, and you may be on minimum schedule staffing and so forth. So I just mentioned that, oh, by the way, so people have visibility of it as well. There is talk of also a fish concert, which again generates hundreds of thousands of people. P-H-I-S-H. Oh, please, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. And that is also being talked in and around that time frame, but the dates are not set yet, so.
So what was the date
The 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. Yes, but I was there when Rome burned, yes. No, again, I just mention it in that you need to have visibility of it now just to know it's out there. I am hoping there's no major effects up here, but clearly there are going to be a lot of resources put into these events.
Going on to new business. First thing on there I have is joint strategic meeting. And you'll see at the bottom of your agenda, it says next meeting date, March 20th. That is a Wednesday. And we're going to have a joint REMAC and Remsco meeting. And what we're going to do is identify a list of items that need to be prioritized and completed within our region. And then we're going to identify committees with some of the REMAC docs joining the Remsco committees to work on these things. Ann and I joke, we have 2 or 3 things we carry over for like 3 years now that we just haven't never been able to get to. But we want to prioritize, we want to identify what REMAC, Remsco, talking with your agencies, what you identify as critical items that need to be worked on. So we're going to put the whole list together, and then we're going to prioritize them And then I'll go back, working with the executive committee, we'll decide which committees need to work on that type deal. Like I put a note here, we probably need to have somebody that's going to review mutual aid plans, so that's something else that we're going to need to look at, is all the counties are looking at getting those updated. But the example I gave earlier, the REMAC, was the legalization of marijuana. How is that going to impact EMS, and why have every agency write their own policy on that when maybe as a region we can develop something that can be used? And we had that, we had storm limited policy and some different things. So I'm really hoping that when we have this meeting that people are going to have some input and some things that we need to look at. And again, once we put them all together, we'll show them on the computer, and then we'll go through and rank them. And the ones with the lowest rankings, going to rank 1 through 5. Ones will be the lowest ranking numbers are the ones we will start working on. So that will be March 20th. It'll be at 7 o'clock. It will be in this room. And I'm hoping that you all can attend, and that we won't just be sitting around looking at each other, and it won't be Debbie and Ann putting their list up there, that people are going to have some things that they feel we need to be working on. Our regular meeting will be April 1st. That is our annual meeting, so that will be election of officers and all that good stuff. But March 20th, it's a Wednesday. Please mark your calendar, and please try to attend so that we can put together a good strategic meeting and identify critical issues that we need to work on here in the North Country. The next thing was the mutual aid plans, which we've kind of talked about, on the need to get them updated. So again, that may end up having to be some kind of a committee unless we can make it fall under one of those to review them. The executive committee can look at that and identify that. Because we do say in the bylaws that the chair can make ad hoc committees as we need to identify things. The next is the Remsco representatives. Debbie was teetering on whether she was going to stay or not, and she did make the decision to retire. So we have to submit 2 names to the state for Remsco. The state will not let us submit one and say this is our delegate and this is our alternate. We have to submit 2 names in which they will vet and identify which one will be the representative. So I thought the best thing was whichever one they choose as a representative, the other one will become the delegate type deal. So I sent out an email and said if you were interested to submit a letter of interest, and we have 3 of them. So the first one is from Mark Devers, saying he would like to express his interest in becoming either the Remsco delegate or alternate. I am in a unique position as I work as an agency executive director, a frontline paramedic, an educator, and county EMS chair. As a result, I have a view of EMS from many angles and can properly represent the needs of the North Country EMS at the state level. I strongly believe the North Country deserves relevant leadership with experience and knowledge of all aspects of the current EMS culture, including education, field care, and administration. I have an intimate understanding of the struggles we face in today's ever-changing EMS climate and will ensure we are adequately represented at the state level. Thank you for your consideration in the matter. The second one is from Dave.
Yeah. Papa Devers. Papa Devers. Papa Devers.
He had his high boots on that day.
Oh, boy. Can I go get my hip figures? No.
The next one is from Dave Sherman. I am interested in representing the North Country at Remsco. I have been in EMS since 1990. I have been a member of a volunteer fire-based ambulance as well as 3 different commercial ambulance services. I've been a member of the North Country REMAC and Remsco since 1997. I have sat on various CQI committees for 2 different regions. I've been on the protocol committee for many years as well as chair of that committee for 3 separate protocol revisions. I've been a New York State CIC since 1998 and regional faculty since 2000. I manage a large ambulance service and am the president of another ambulance service. I have experience as an assistant fire chief of a volunteer fire department, so I've seen EMS from both the volunteer and paid side. I've been attending state council meetings regularly for the last 15 plus years. I believe that I could represent the North Country well. Thank you for consideration. And the last one is from Ann Smith. I am interested in representing the North Country on the state EMS Council as your delegate or alternate. My passion for EMS runs deep, and I've been involved with North Country EMS since 2006. Through my work as your program agency director, I've had the unique opportunity of being involved in the operational and clinical aspects of EMS in the North Country for many years. I believe that a representative needs to be able to identify with and support all types of EMS agencies, including commercial, not-for-profit, and fire department-based. I continue to run as a BLS provider with the Lisbon Volunteer Fire Corporation and as an advanced provider with Ogdensburg Volunteer Rescue Squad. I have previous experience as an assistant director of operations with a commercial EMS agency prior to coming to the North Country. With my experience, I feel that I could fairly represent the diverse types of agencies that are in the North Country. So that is from Ann. So at this time, I'm going to open it up. If anybody would like to ask any of these three people any questions, you can. If not, I was going to ask Bruce and Lance if you would hand out ballots and collect them and do the count for us. So you're voting for two candidates only. If you mark all three, your vote will not count. So does anybody have any questions that you would like to ask any of these individuals?
Is Ann a member of the council or not?
Ann is not a member of the council, but it does not say that you have to be a member of the council to serve on the Remsco. And there are other program agencies in other regions that sit on the Remsco. And she had expressed an interest, and I told her to feel free to put in a letter. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Karen can't vote.
I can't vote.
Yeah, everybody's getting
Yep, and I'm not a voting member. You might want to count the number of voting members you have, just to.
How many voting members do we have here tonight, please, sir?
Not everybody.
Wearing like four hats.
So you should have 18 pieces of paper when you get done here.
I'm going to vote for three different personalities.
I have no opinions on that or anything. Yeah, but at least vote for yourself.
You know who I mean,
right? Governor might have connection.
Oh, you better believe it. Unless you're voting on something that's been sitting on his table for the last 12 years.
He's got it makes me do his light wear.
30 years ago.
Do you need my toes and fingers?
Small barter in my book.
I can't. I have no opinion on these matters.
Okay, maybe this is Adam.
You got three good candidates.
Calculus. That's like throwing you guys under the bus, huh?
No.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was that.
Do you have 18 pieces of paper, guys?
He said, let me quote. I will not accept. If elected, I will not serve.
No, I don't think you do.
Because my volume is.
18 or less.
Yeah, it can be less.
While we're waiting, can I throw in some, while we're waiting, can I throw in some something for the good of the organization?
Yeah, I just want them to be able to hear it, so give it just a second there. I don't want you to say anything that everybody's not
Stay
going to hear.
complete.
They're back there. I think so they might need somebody's hands, toes, fingers, we'll see.
Oh, well, the good news is between the two of them, there's
Presence
one.
is to see. Nobody takes a call.
That's right, get up and leave.
How many paramedics does it take?
Don't forget that there's some resources back there on the table if you didn't pick them up on your way in.
My wife saw on Facebook the other day, there actually is a town called Sandwich, and the police cars say Sandwich.
I don't see the donut
I
police
said, it's a
car.
good thing it's not a town called Donut.
Do you have 18?
You have 17.
Who didn't vote?
Who didn't vote?
Okay, somebody, if they didn't want to vote, that's okay.
That's okay, you can have less, you
You
just
can
can't
have
have
less,
more.
just can't have more.
You know, like 27, then we probably have to say recount.
Oh, Jay left, that's right.
Oh, Jay left.
Oh, Jay left, yep.
Okay.
All right.
You gonna make them burn the ballots here, Madam Chair?
Okay. Okay, thank you. You are the tallying. Certainly.
It took you that long to count 17 pieces of paper?
I didn't want to because I didn't want them not to get it.
You said count them.
We're doing all right there. Although, oh boy.
5 minutes to count the 17.
You said you're on the Garrison side, aren't you?
Yep.
Probably know well, maybe know my husband then, John Dodson. He works branch chief over at.
Yeah. So you live in Beaver Falls?
We do.
The other side of the program. Yep, Sean and I go way back in there. Years. Look at the
President wants to jockey. It just means she comes to wipe everything else and just go fast and turn left.
In fact, I'll be seeing him tomorrow. We talked about
Yeah, I know he's meetings have already begun.
Oh, no, the deal was they want us to meet for photos.
Oh, yeah, they got mandated on phones.
Of the system channels that were, because it's a big thing and they start to want to push it through it. Right, and what else? You just take it, slash everything else.
You sent me contact information. Can you send me an email for that? Thank you.
Down that fast.
Thank you. Maybe we can get the name tags redone at some point so they're all the same size. Maybe your chestnut and then look at and then look at Jay. Ron should come off the page. I said maybe we can name tags so they're all the same size and send it based on how long you've been here. So the person can spit on it.
Service strike.
There's a copy of it.
Mid-70s, 74, something like that.
That means ties.
But we just wanted to add it into your water and all that, but we didn't have all your contact information.
Okay, so tallies. Our two new delegates are Mark Devers and Ann Smith. So I need a resume from you, or a, whatever you want to call it,
Whatever your father can type up.
so that can be submitted in.
I actually worked. I didn't hear it.
Other new business. Larry?
A few weeks ago, I gave a presentation to all the hospital emergency managers. And were you there, Doug?
Yeah, no, I heard about it though.
Okay, about a half-hour presentation on amateur radio and what it can do for the hospitals. All the hospitals have amateur radio available in them right now.
Yep.
We talked an awful lot about, PCRs and this and that, and I said, well, if your cell phone dies, and your internet dies, and the landlines die, how are you gonna talk? How are you gonna talk? And I am an amateur myself. So, in terms of sending information back and forth between the hospitals, we could be sending med lists and stuff like that. If we get a major event with sheltering and stuff, we can provide communications from the shelters. And we've got nice robust dispatch systems that can handle the dispatch portion of it. But when it comes down to, we need potatoes and meat to feed people with, that stuff we can handle for that. We can send data, we can send pictures, we can do a lot of different stuff. So something that I keep pushing for fire departments, and I would suggest it for your squads as well, is the possibility of putting up a dual band amateur antenna on your building, especially if you have a tower. You haven't got to get fancy with it. You just got to get the antenna up there and the coax into someplace where we can set a radio up. We'll bring the radio. If you want to buy one, that's fine. We'll tell you what to buy. But we'll bring a radio if need be. But it's a backup communication that we can provide. And everybody talks about EMP, which is the electro pulse, where everything is wiped out. Well, A lot of us have some of our stuff protected, so we can do with that. There are already state nets that deal with this on a regular basis, so we practice this. We do a hospital. We did a hospital net the other night, but the weather was bad, so we didn't go out to the hospitals. But we do regular nets and move traffic and send pictures and send traffic through data and everything else. Think about that as you plan. Think about that as you're talking about making plans for different events going on. This could happen too. And what can we do to help you? A lot of our stuff, I'm capable. I worked out of the woods at Old Forge on battery and solar one day. It was a contest. I contacted 16 counties in New York State and 4 states, and the Yorktown Battlefield Special Event Station. But that was all on battery and solar. So we have that capability. I have a battery in my truck. I've got a radio that I can bring in to set up. It's all there. Thank you.
Any other new business? Motion to close the meeting.
I make that motion.
Second.
Stand slow.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Previous minutes from the October 1st meeting. Any changes, corrections, additions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Take whoever you'd like. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Treasurer's report was left on the back table. I'd like to thank Jonathan. Jonathan worked with the folks there in the office and got some classes set up to make them tie out more with the state way the budget works. So thank you very much for taking the initiative and getting that done. And he changed one of the forms that we use for approval to make it easier for him too. So what we started with was a starting point, and he's run with it and got it to where it needs to be. So thank you very much. Any questions for Jay? So we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Enforcement list, we have 2. First one is, be advised, result of an investigation. The following agency's New York State certification has been assessed a civil penalty of $7,000 for violations of 10 NYCRR Part 822H and 823A. Citywide Mobile Response Corp. in Bronx. The second one is suspended for 3 months effective 10/30/2018. The suspension is stayed. Placed on probation for 3 years effective 10/30/18. Assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. Juan Rosado from Flushing, New York, for violations of Part 803 AP1. Does anybody else have any other communications that I don't have we need to do at this point? Okay, we're going to keep moving then into committee reports. Mark, Air Medical.
I have nothing specific to report that's come up since the last meeting. However, Mercy Flight, Life Net of New York, and Fort Drum all have representation here, so I would defer to any of them if they have anything specific from their respective entities to comment on.
I have the 2018 closeout for Mercy Flight. We did 11 calls in Jefferson County, 11 calls in Lewis, and 1 in St. Lawrence for a total of 23 in the program agency. We've got our spring education day coming up on May 31st and our fall one on October 4th. I'm planning both of those, so stay tuned, and I'll email the flyers to Ann and Jonathan and get them out to everybody for some cheap education opportunities. I'll be around Saturday actually for the leadership training going on in Canton. If anybody wants to touch base on any specific things to do with those. And we'll be seeking our Canes accreditation hopefully sometime around April, May, so, which is exciting. And as far as landing zones for Fort Drum, I got a list and we put them into our DeLorme program for now, but we'll be switching to Flight Vector and all those will be transferred over, so we know where all the heliports are now on Fort Drum.
Anything, Bruce?
The report should be, have you received the report, Debbie? I know it's like a broken record. If not, I'll get it. I did pull numbers earlier today to get the year-end data, but I don't trust it, so I'll get back to you guys on that. I don't want to give you incorrect data. It seems really low. I know we did more than 80 transports out of the 3 counties. So we might have a little data issue as far as the reporting goes, but that happens. So we'll make sure we get the full clearinghouse and year-end report, and then I'll make sure I have a Q1 report at the next meeting.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions on air medical? Dave Allen's not here. I don't believe the auditing has been done. I'll follow up with him. Bobby, anything on bylaws? Okay, moving on to CONs. We discussed this at the last meeting. We currently charge $1,000 for a clarification of territory, and it has been discussed that we don't have expenses associated with that typically. We don't have to do the phone calls and the travel and the mailings. We don't have to have a stenographer to record that vote. So it was asked that we look at that and see if we could make that not have to have a fee associated with the clarification of territory.
No fee is what you're saying? Or
No fee.
Or small fee?
No fee.
We don't even mail them any longer. They're uploaded through the health commerce system, so everything's done electronically.
I'm aware of that.
So there's no mailing cost either. There's no, requirement to make a bunch of copies or anything. I got a copy electronic. I got the copy. I scanned it in, emailed it. So there's been absolutely no cost, and with any of those, we return any unused cost to the applicant. So
One thing, if I may, and I'm trying to find it because it was just sent to me yesterday. In the new program agency deliverables, it is now required that a stenographer be used for any quote-unquote code requirement. And I'm trying to find the language here. And I wasn't aware of this till it was brought to my attention by Dan Clayton. And I don't have any interpretations. I clearly, at CONs and even transfers of operating authority there. But as an example, there's a code requirement that says the regional council must approve all new training center applications. Well, taking that interpretation, because it was a deliverable, I said, does that mean we got to have a stenographer when we do that? And I didn't get an answer. And I'm desperately trying to find it here. I'll see if I can find it too.
I guess my only response to that is we're going to have to increase my budget then.
I'm
Period.
And I totally get it. It was again, it was news to me. It was sent to me. Dan had originally said to me that it was required that all the REMAC meeting be stenographers. That was then he backed away and sent me this, and I'm struggling here to find it.
So they should be transcribed. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe he was referring to a stenographer. Again, give me a minute and I'll find this, and I just need to mention, and that was a new thing that was put in the deliverables per Dan.
Why would that be under the program agency and not the Remsco?
Again, I'm mouthing back what I was told. I'm not, Deb, I'm not.
If that is under yours, the Remsco, that will be assumed by us, because that is our responsibility to vote on that. That's not,
Give me a minute here, let me, could we, I just share that, do what you want, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, and I will try diligently to find Dan's email here quickly.
I don't, well, we have a COT that we need to talk about and vote on, but I obviously can't do that if we can't.
Well, I'm not prepared to answer that tonight.
So it's not something that any of us are aware of right now.
And so if you want to
I-
continue the way you're doing, I'd
Yeah.
be fine. I'm just going to dig out this email and I'll share it with you, and you can take the verbiage and go from there. Beyond that, I don't know what to say.
I don't want to, because we have a COT. Come back to it? Okay.
Well, just give me 5 minutes to dig through this, and I'll be happy to share the
Okay.
email.
No, because I
I
don't
think you're
want,
recorded now, Mark.
I don't want there to be an issue, so that this,
No, I'm not I just need 5 minutes to find this,
Yep.
okay?
Move on to the next
Yep.
committees then
Thank
come
you,
back.
Yep.
that's all I'm suggesting.
so executive, do you have that MOU in?
Absolutely.
So, we had to review our memorandum of understanding that we have for German Regional Health Planning for the program agency. So, the executive committee met with Ann, we went through this, and we added in the information about them doing the treasurer stuff now. So, all we did was update, for some reason, we had in the North Country Remsco, that first section there, we had that we would electronically forward the Remsco members the agenda minutes and other pertinent information. I no longer do that. I have Jonathan do that, so that there's one point of getting the people that are attending, because there's so much overlap between REMAC and Remsco. I didn't want people having to call Jonathan for REMAC and contact me for Remsco, so we made it all the program agency office. So we took that out of that top section there. And then on, I think, page 2, Ann?
Yeah, so this is all the same stuff.
Yeah. We added that they will be assisting the treasurer with the timely processing of the expense reports and QuickBooks reimbursements as agreed upon in the MOU financials. And we added that they will assist the executive committee with quarterly reports and filing of vouchers. And these were all things that Ann agreed to. And so we, again, yearly need to look at this MOU. This is what was changed. So if nobody has any objections, and if somebody wants to make a motion, then I will go ahead and sign that MOU, and we will have one in place for this coming year.
Make the motion to accept it as it's written.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Hearing none, motion passes. Sorry. Just keep that going. So the next one we also looked at was we had a memorandum of understanding for the financials, which is basically the agreement that we put forth when we presented us doing the financials. So we'll invoice the Remsco $150 quarterly for the following items. And we're doing the QuickBook entries and the Remsco deposits and expenses. We're reconciling the bank statements when they are given to us. We do all the printing of the checks to pay expenses as submitted and approved by the Remsco. We're making sure the sheets are reviewed and that they are approved with the proper signatures. Quarterly summaries are provided, and we maintain the records. We provide all the information to the auditor, which is really pretty easy because we just download the QuickBooks and say, here you go. And again, assisting with the quarterly reporting and vouchering. So the Remsco will provide the laptop and QuickBooks program, which I would entertain that the laptop needs to be updated. The battery is going dead in it. And it's old. it's been around for a while. It's not too perky. We'll train current staff on QuickBooks program, which is something we already did initially. And Debbie had set up the QuickBooks, and again, they'll review the financials. That's what the auditing committee is for. So that is the MOU for financials that was discussed in the previous MOU.
Any questions? No, shouldn't be you. Thank you, but no, thank you. Bruce, you can make a motion. So we have a motion and a second to keep the MOU with program agency doing the QuickBooks for us with no changes to that. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Yeah, that's the Remsco contract.
So we'll finish up executive, talking about contract, our contract status. We did not have a contract with the state for our Remsco to receive our funds. That has all been fixed. We're waiting. I got word late today that it had been accepted, and they were emailing me the forms so that I can sign them, get them notarized, and get them back. And then we will be getting our funds coming in. So we've not gotten any funds the last 2 years because this had not been taken care of. That's why that was added to that MOU there for the program agency for assistance to make sure that stuff is getting done. Back to the CON. So John, it says,
Well, does everyone want to read it?
Yes.
Okay. This is an email from Dan Clayton, as they framed it earlier. That was a conversation we were having about steno. He thought it was the whole meeting. Then he said, I was wrong. See the cut and paste from the deliverables. Meeting management. 1, all Remsco meetings must be managed in accordance with New York State Public Officers Law. Actual meeting minutes of all meetings shall be taken and submitted to the department online as outlined in the contract. B, that was A. B, for meetings in which statutory actions, underlined, are taken, a stenographic, well, it says stenographic is what it says, stenographic. Transcript shall be taken and submitted to the department as outlined in this contract. C, all meetings must be broadcasted on the internet as required by New York State Executive Order number 3, issued by Governor Elliott Spitzer, January 1st, 2007, and affirmed by New York State Executive Order number 2, issued by Governor Andrew Cuomo, January 1st, 2011. Now, obviously, you're going to say, what is statutory actions? What are all that? I don't know the answer. I only know that if you have to bring a stenographer in, it's going to cost a fee. Okay?
typically costs us, I think, $350.
To just get them in the door.
And then so much
Such
a
a
page.
page.
I didn't see all those figures, so I don't
Something
recall.
like that, and then it was so much a page.
Page, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously for COT, we're gonna have 2 pages, because they have to log everybody's name
Right.
down when you vote.
And literally, I didn't plan to address
That would be
this tonight.
statutory.
So
We bring a stenographer in when we do CON votes and transfer of operating authority. So with the clarification of territory, it didn't, I mean, you read through the state guidance document on that.
I know where you're going. I don't disagree.
And my questions to the other program agencies is they don't.
And again, this was, again, in the follow-up verbal conversation I had with Dan, it was that this is something new in the deliverables and was being clarified as such. The highlighted language was new in the deliverables. I don't know what to advise you. If I'd known this issue was going to come up, I would have gotten clarification out of all
I'm going to request that we table this. I know Constableville's been a while trying to get all this done, but I certainly don't want to do anything that's going to come back and cause them an issue down the road or us an issue, so.
Who's putting in the application in?
Constableville has
per DOH request to firm up their areas that they cover.
It's a clarification of territory.
Right. The only thing I'm going to suggest,
Years ago,
Turing.
Turing was the last one, and I was a part of that one. This one, it basically, because of the jagged edge on the backside of our coverage area, is they
And
wanted
then
us line by
there's J.
line.
Hoser Company or something up there that we
Costa.
done?
Yeah.
Costa,
Yep.
JS Costa.
yeah.
And we done Black River.
Right. What I'd say to you is, if you vote on it tonight, as you've traditionally done, okay, send it in, and Albany says, sorry, has to be stenoed, then
We're
next,
gonna happen another meeting.
well, that would be my thought.
Right before my renewal in May, my renewal is up in May.
No,
And I just took this over 2 weeks ago.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm not trying to hold this up, it's just, my suggestion, and again, this would be one of those ones I'd run back to our attorneys on. I just don't have the benefit of doing that. But if you want to do that, as you traditionally, if I wasn't here tonight, you would have just voted on it, and so be it, you know what I'm trying to say? And all you can get is a rejection back, and you got to revote it next month.
Well, there's two issues, I believe, if I'm hearing correctly.
Correct.
You got the COT itself, but we have the fact that we were gonna bring forth doing away with the $1,000 fee for a
Okay.
COT because we had no costs.
Yeah.
So now, if we go ahead and we vote and we do away with the COT cost, we move forward and vote on the COT, then it's gotta come back and stenoed. Now we have to go back on what we just voted out.
I get it.
So,
Can't we make a motion that as long as there's no cost to the committee, there'll be no cost to the agency? If we have to incur cost, then they accept that.
I'm willing to say that I would accept the cost if there was one.
Well, and that's what we do, so we just set a fee up front, so we have that money up front to process CONs and transfers.
And the history of that.
Left the fee in place, but ignored collecting it for tonight.
because we were looking at removing that as a requirement.
Right.
And the agency
Yeah, but I'm
said that
saying,
they would bring me a check if I needed it.
That would keep you open, that you could charge if you have to, but proceed with the vote tonight that you want to do.
So Ron, you're making a motion that we not eliminate that fee until we get additional clarification.
That's right.
And then you're making a motion that we vote on the clarification of territory for Constableville.
That we discuss it tonight. I won't say I support vote, I say we discuss it and then go where the discussion
Let's
goes.
treat that as two separate issues.
Okay?
Yep.
That's
So
two separate
there's
issues.
nothing to vote on, because I brought it up and we never made a motion to
Well,
eliminate it.
let's officially table the fee as a matter of record, and now we can move on, and if we have to mention the fee in the clarification, that at this point, we will waive the fee barring further.
Clarification on the statutory.
Right.
Right, and remember, there's no legislative requirement about the fee. Okay, now, the history of the fees were this, and many of the CONs that were done through the mid-'80s, even the late '80s, there were no fees. Problem was that applicants would apply for CONs, and they'd say, we bill you, and then when they didn't get it, what'd they do? They didn't pay the fee. So that's why the fees were allowed, but there's not a legislative requirement, so I don't see the fee component of this affecting the vote.
And we set the fees high because of unanticipated costs.
Right.
Especially on the full ceiling, because we had to go bill collecting once.
Air
And
That's
no
understandable.
fun.
And our history here with clarification is that there are virtually no costs,
Right.
if any at all.
Right.
But, and that's where I'm going back, even if we leave the fee in place, we can just simply waive it, even if we have to vote that, a month ahead or a meeting ahead of time or whatever. But for this one, I would say let's do it and waive the fee for this time, barring.
And I'll reach out to Dan Clayton and request some clarification and let him know what we were looking at doing and just trying to make things.
I wouldn't say waive it until you know.
Waive it pending further clarification.
Right.
All right, so a clarification of territory for Constableville volunteer fire was sent out. I heard back from Mark. Mark had a chance to review it. He didn't have any issues. Larry, you
I have
didn't
no
have any
problems.
issues. I went through it. So I think that at this point, the CON would like to bring as a seconded motion to allow the change.
I don't recall seeing that distributed to us membership.
It didn't, it went to the CON committee.
But once they approved it, always in the past, it was posted so that we would know what we're voting on.
Okay, we can, and this is something that Ann and I spoke about this morning, is we're gonna have to set a deadline for people to submit stuff, because this last minute getting stuff.
I received multiple large items last week,
I know,
and I did not have time to.
I know. I've done this for how many
No,
years?
not just that, other things. That's why we're gonna have to probably say, we gotta have stuff by a certain date in order for committees to have a good chance
Or to get it on the agenda.
Right.
Generally, Central Subregion has, as part of theirs, I think it's a week out. If it's not in a week ahead of time, it's not making the agenda, it'll fall to the next set of meetings. Mid-State has a similar policy, but not as strict, and the Binghamton folks, it's 10 days. 10
I
business
believe
days.
we do have something in place, we've just never followed it the best because, again, we only meet quarterly, and I don't like to hang up everybody for months, but I will tell you after last week, I am sorry, but for my sanity, we're going to start following the deadline. And I'm going to apologize to all the agencies up front on camera. We're just going to start following the deadline.
Just for clarification and for the record, for this particular clarification of territory, I've been on the CON committee for a long time. Constableville was reached out to by the Department of Health. They didn't go out looking for this job. Ultimately, DOH said, you need to clarify your territory and clean up the verbiage. To the best of their abilities, they did that. I personally actively assisted them, having worked through this before and many times with Ron. And I can attest to the fact that there is no expansion of territory. It's simply meeting that new DOH verbiage for the CON so that it fits nicely on the certificate of need. In this particular case, because it encompasses multiple townships, it is quite wordy, but there's no expansion. It's simply clarifying, as simple as can be in this particular case, the exact geographic location that they cover. And personally, I would move that we vote on this and concur with Debbie's bringing this forth as a second motion from the CON committee.
The application also had supporting letters from every single surrounding agency.
Township.
And I think
Township and township.
It was 75 pages, I think.
Yes, it was every
I
bit.
started to print it, and I saw 75, I'm like, no, I'll just leave this on my computer.
Can we just hear the verbiage?
No,
Okay, so the initial certificate,
This is, what you're about to read is what's going to appear on their certificate, is that
No,
correct?
we're gonna tell you what it says currently first.
Okay.
currently it says Fire Protection District. That's their territory.
They didn't like that.
Now it's got to be.
We didn't exist.
It's not the original, thank God.
Was there- When they said fire protection district, was there an official fire district, like a fire commissioner's district, or?
It says,
No.
this ambulance
There was
service
not.
certificate belongs to Constableville Volunteer Fire Company, Inc., blah, 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 primary territory, fire protection district. They could come to Lucan. I live in a fire protection district.
Yeah.
Anyhow, hence the reason. So take note, their non-rectangular map, and what we ran into problems are all these little draw-outs here through multiple townships. I could pull this up on the computer, I have it on there. So are you ready for the clarification? I'm so proud of this.
Yes.
Okay. So, Town of West Turin line bordering Town of Martinsburg to Evans Road. Evans Road intersects with Town of West Turin and Town of Turin, at which point the line goes straight south to Powell Road, south side of Powell Road only to State Route 26, west side of Route 26 only in parentheses, to Route 12D, intersection Route 12D south to Rugg Road, parentheses, west side only, to 3091 State Route 12D. Line continues straight south to 6555 Bailey Road, continuing south to Domser Road and Brown Road intersection, parentheses, west side only, to West Road continuing northwest to, is it Stuckey Road or Stuckey Road? Stuckey Road, continuing northwest on Stuckey Road, north side only, to Dutch Hill Road intersection to Spencer Road to the West Turin town line, bordering Town of Leiden, Town of Lewis, Town of Osceola, and Town of Lowville. That is a pure, accurate description of their territory.
Of course, it won't fit on that CON paperwork.
We're gonna need an extension.
That's what they're going to do.
Any questions about that? Do you want this, Ron, are you comfortable with that, or do you want it, you're good with that?
I'm comfortable with it. I'm accepting what you guys are doing. I know a lot about it, but I'm, you know. But in the past, we've always, and I understand, Ann, I understand, you're
I
getting
agree. I
crap
did not
right up
have
to the,
opportunity.
I mean, I've had it come right up to the time we was meeting. I mean, it's,
And this has been in the works since 2015.
Jonathan, I'd like this to be a roll call vote, please.
roll call vote, right?
Let's do it.
No, you just do the people that are here.
Dave Clark. Yes. Kim Chestnut.
Yes.
Mark Dalton.
You need to put yeses and nos there, because it needs to be reflected in the minutes, so make sure you have, okay?
Yeah. Mark Dalton.
Yes.
Mark Evers.
Yes.
Larry Gerard.
Yes.
Dave Knapp. Kristen Johnson.
Yes.
Carol, I didn't see your last name wrong.
Mensch.
Munch.
Mensch.
Yes.
Sorry. Craig Sherman.
Yes.
Bobby Simpson. Yes. Debbie Singleton.
Yes.
Ron Smith.
Yes.
Mark Tuttle.
Yes.
Bruce Wright.
Yes.
Lance Romas. Matt Hilton.
Yes.
Matt has to abstain.
Yeah, you got to abstain.
Karen Black.
I just want to know.
He doesn't have to abstain, unless there's unless he has a
Only
financial,
if
we've
it's
been
a
through this
financial.
extension
Oh,
thing.
that's right,
Oh, that's
sorry.
right, that's
Gotta
right,
be a
that's right.
fiduciary.
He's got a financial interest in this?
He gets the vote.
Sorry, my apologies.
I have to repeat them.
Unanimous?
I'm sorry, could you repeat all those numbers? Kidding. I'm the new guy, I had to.
Would you like me to read it? Because I
No.
would.
That was a poor attempt at humor.
I worked really hard at writing that. Me and Jen.
That's all.
Unanimous, very good. I have to do a letter, so I will get the letter out to the state saying that was voted on. And I will set up a time to talk with Dan Clayton about the COTs to get confirmation of that so that we know.
We'll do the letter, I'll upload it to the system so you don't have to know.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's the first CON action you've had in the whole year.
It is. Legislation. Dave?
Well, session's young. They're throwing through a whole lot of stuff, but not much that has to do with us. We are something that's important for all agencies that bill, whether you're municipal, volunteer, or commercial. The crossovers, Medicaid crossovers and Medicaid supplement has been removed from the budget. Initially, we were advised that it was a from the Department of Budget that it was a oversight